Outsourcing concerns. So in addition to all the personnel issues we talked about with our own personnel, when we outsource, we have to think about a whole nother set of personnel concerns. We have to think about the fact, do we even trust the provider we're going to be hiring? What kind of employment practices do they use? What kind of access control are they using? Data ownership and control, and incident response and notification processes. Let's talk about each of those as we go through and what questions you should be asking your outsourced provider. Well, the first one is their employment practices and proper vetting of the provider. What kind of background checks are they doing on their employees, and what kind of background checks are you doing on the service provider itself? Are you reading reviews? Are you talking to previous clients? Are you figuring out how they do business? These are important things for you to think about. What kind of internal personnel controls are they using? Are they doing background checks? Are they making sure they're using mandatory vacations? Are they making sure there's two-person integrity or dual control on important functions? All of those things are things you need to think about. How do they treat their employees? How do they handle issues? What do they do when they fire somebody? Now, some providers will be upfront with this information. Others will just tell you, hey, you're buying a service. Either hire us or don't. But again, if they tell you that, you may want to look elsewhere, right? So you want to think about all these things when you're looking at an outsourcing provider. The next one is access control. How is access to the system going to be controlled? Let's say that I hire a cloud provider to run my servers for me. Are they going to maintain all the access, or do I get all the access? Or do we have shared access? Can they access the servers but not the information on them? This is all information we have to ask. What about data, logical and physical separation? If that provider has 10 other clients, how do I make sure my data is not being commingled with their data? How do I make sure that the other company isn't being able to read my information? All things you need to think about as you're architecting it and thinking about whether or not you want to outsource or you want to do it in-house. The next one is data ownership and control. And some of the questions you want to ask there is, who's going to own the data? Is the data encrypted when it's stored? Does the service provider have access to the data or the encryption keys themselves? This is the kind of information we have to think about because, again, different legal requirements and different policy requirements like PCI DSS are going to look into that during your audits and assessments. And the final one we want to talk about is incident response and notification processes. Who's going to be responsible for conducting the incident response? Because if all your data is on their territory, are they going to do it for you, or are they going to let you in to do it on your own? Who's going to notify you there was a breach? Are they doing the monitoring? Are you doing the monitoring? How would you even know if there was a breach? Because a lot of times with these third-party providers, they may not tell you, right? And that's a big issue. You have to consider these things when you're outsourcing because all of these security concerns are still your responsibility. You can outsource the task, you can outsource the software development, you can outsource the server hosting, but still, your company is responsible for it because I, as a customer, have hired you to do a job, and if you turn around and outsource that to somebody else, I'm still going to blame you. And you need to think about that when you decide to outsource or not.